Hello everyone, my name is Ellis. We're in a potato field here in south central Idaho. This is the field of Blake Matthews, and Blake had some problems early on. He'd farmed this ground he and his dad had farmed the ground for quite a few years. Potato production was kind of static. Wanted to find out exactly what they could do to increase that. Well, they contacted Rocky Mountain Agronomics and visited with Jared Cook. He'll meet Jared in a minute. And Jared took some leaf samples, some soil samples, sent them off to the Texas Plant and Soil Lab. From that, they determined what the fertility needs were in the soil, what the plant nutrition was, how it could be increased. You'll meet both Jared and Noel Garcia of Texas Plant and Soil Lab in a very interesting report.
My dad's been raising potatoes since the early 80s, and I've been involved with it for the last 10 years.
Now, is this rotated with other crops?
Yeah, we typically have a rotation of small grains, then potatoes, and then sugar beets, and then back to small grains.
Okay, so when you have a potato crop here, why it's going to be treated as if a potato crop in any other field that you might have in another year.
Yes.
Okay. What early on? How did your potato crops here fare? What sort of production were you getting from them?
Early on, it seems like the last few years our yields have increased a little bit through some of the different things that we're trying and that. And I think we've kind of reached a plateau with those now.
And what, I guess in the number of sacks or whatever that you got, what sort of a level had you been at?
Around that 500 sack mark is where we've typically been.
All right. Now you've recently started using services of Rocky Mountain Ag and Texas Soil and Plant Lab. What recommendations have they made, and what changes have you seen as far as your production?
Well, following their recommendations, we've changed a lot around of what we typically do as far as the nutrients that we apply and when we apply them and how much, and we've paid a lot more attention to the micronutrients. And with that, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding at harvest time, but with what our test digs have shown in that, we've seen an increase in yield and in the quality.
Now, you've dug up several here. How would these grade out when it comes time to deliver those?
Well, I mean, we would be happy with these at harvest, and we're still a month and a half away from that. So, with that, I mean, they should do very well.
But they're not the only ones on that potato plant. I think you dug up 2 plants and have about 2 dozen potatoes here.
Yeah, we're sitting really well right now. This variety of potatoes usually finish very well, and with the size that we've got now, we should finish very well and be really tickled with them.
Okay. Any problems in this field? Nutritional content, disease content, fungus content, anything that you've managed this season?
These have been about as healthy as we've ever had. We actually we've been able to cut out a few things because of the nutrition value that we typically do that we haven't, just because the plants have been healthier.
So not have to worry about any blight or insects that really some of your neighbors are having to spray for. We see a lot of planes in the air around here.
Yes, that's exactly. We've been treating with fungicides and that, but we've actually cut out the insecticides this year on these fields because of the health that they've had.
Okay. And any estimation on what this field would yield? You talked about a 500 bag standard here just a little while ago. And any idea of what it might increase this year?
We'd always like to shoot for the moon. We're hoping for 600 sacks, but we'll see.
In addition to Jared Cook, who was helping with the test dig, another key consultant was Noel Garcia, Operations Director of the Texas Plant and Soil Lab, who based some of his recommendations on the potato plant vegetation.
We'll be looking for the most recent fully expanded leaf, or the petiole, which is probably around the 4th or 5th one from the top of the vine back. And generally what we're looking at is that stem portion that they send to the lab. And they actually send about 30 to 40 of these petioles. And this is usually what you end up. And you want to get across the field and take a sort of what's representative of that field, and that's what you submit to the laboratory.
And what does the lab do with that? When you get those petioles, what's the process that you
we
have?
do what we call a sap analysis. Some people call it tissue analysis or a petiole analysis, and basically we're measuring the sap flow in the petiole in the plant. So what that allows us to do is forecast 7 to 21 days in advance what the plant will be deficient in before you start seeing visual deficiencies.
Now you're going to dry it out?
Yeah, we'll dehydrate it and then grind it and then weigh it out and portion out and then digest it and run it through our instruments back in the laboratory.
And that gives you analysis of what is there, or, and more importantly, what is not there.
Exactly. It will tell us, we'll be measuring the amount of nitrate, phosphate, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, zinc, iron, manganese, copper, boron, sulfur. And based on those interpretations, we'll apply our proprietary standards that we've developed over the last 40 years or so. We've actually modified them according to what traditional laboratories are using. We actually follow the nutrient or moisture curve, where early in the vegetative growth, plant nutrient requirements are very minimal. And then once starts tubering or bulking up, then that demand increases. So that's how we adjust our plant standards accordingly.
And that goes back to the owner of the potatoes, and he or she can make the necessary adjustments as far as nutritional content.
Exactly. Once we analyze the petiole or sap analysis, I will give them a recommendation of what to apply. Now, petioles being a high-end crop, it's a little bit more aggressive, so we take a petiole on a weekly basis, starting at probably early bloom, and then continue out on a weekly basis throughout.
That's our story from South Central Idaho. Pretty good story about increasing potato production. 500 sacks, maybe up to 700, just with some balanced nutrition in that potato crop. Amazing. You'll find out too. This is Stu Ellis